Biology is the study of living things. It's a branch of science, and like other sciences, it's a way of understanding nature. Biologists deal with the living part of nature and with the non living things which affect the living things in any way. They strive to understand, explain, integrate, and describe the natural world of living things. The literal meanings of biology is the study of life. It's very difficult to define life. There are certain aspects that lie beyond the scope of the science of biology, like the answers to the questions: what is the meaning of life? Why should there be life? These are the questions not usually taken up by biologists and are left to philosophers and theologians. Biologists mainly deal with the matters relating to how life works. Life, for biologists, is a set of characteristics that distinguish living organisms from non-living objects, including dead organisms. Living organisms are highly organized. Complex entities are composed of one or more cells, contain genetic program of their characteristics, can acquire and use energy, can carry out and control numerous chemical reactions, can grow in size, maintain a fairly constant internal environment, produce offspring similar to themselves, and respond to changes in the environment. Any object possessing all these characteristics simultaneously be declared as living things and an object for biological studies. The science of biology is a very wide study. It includes every aspect of living things. Therefore, volumes of information are available under this major head. It's but natural to divide the science into quite a number of branches for our convenience of comprehending and studying biology. You are surely familiar at this stage with ecology, embryology, physiology, morphology, paleontology, histology, evolution, genetics, zoogeography, and many other branches of biology which deal with the environmental relations, development, functions, structure, form, and internal gross structure, fossil, tissues, ancestral history, heredity, and distribution of animals in nature, respectively. In addition to these branches, there are a number of other branches of biology, such as molecular biology, microbiology, marine biology, environmental biology, freshwater biology, parasitology, human biology, social biology, and biotechnology. Molecular biology. Molecular biology is a branch of biology which deals with the structure of organisms, the cells, and their organelles at molecular level. Environmental biology. Environmental biology is the study of organisms in relation to their environment. This includes interaction between the organism and their inorganic and organic environment, especially as it relates to human activities. Microbiology. This is the study of microorganisms, which include bacteria, viruses, protozoa, and microscopic algae and fungi. Freshwater biology. This branch of biology deals with organisms living in freshwater bodies, like rivers and lakes, and physical and chemical parameters of these water bodies. Marine biology. This is the study of life in seas and oceans. This includes the study of marine life and physical and chemical characteristics of sea, acting as a factor for marine life. Parasitology is the branch of biology which deals with the study of parasites. The structure, mode of transmission, life histories, and host. Parasite relationships are studied in parasitology. Human biology. It deals with the study of man. This includes form and structure, function, histology, anatomy, morphology, evolution, genetics, cell biology, and ecological studies of human beings. Social biology. This is the branch of biology which deals with the study of social behaviors and communal life of human beings. Biotechnology. It deals with the use of living organisms, systems, or processes in manufacturing and service industries. Levels of biological organization. Hundreds of chemical reactions are involved in maintaining life of even the simplest organisms. It is something surprising to find that of the 92 naturally occurring chemical elements, only 16 are commonly used in forming chemical compounds from which the living organisms are made. These 16 elements and a few others which occur in the particular organisms are called bioelements. In the human body, only 6 bioelements account for 99% of the total mass. The fact that the same 16 chemical elements occur in all organisms and the fact that their properties differ from those in the non-living world shows that bioelements have special properties which make them particularly appropriate as basis for life. Biological organization is not simple. It has high degree of complexity because of which the living organisms are able to carry out a number of processes, some very complicated, which distinguish them from the non-living things. A living thing has built-in regulatory mechanisms which interact with the environment to sustain its structural and functional integrity. A living thing is therefore composed of highly structured living substance or protoplasm. In order to understand the various phenomena of life, biologists, for their convenience, study the biological organization at different levels, starting from the very basic level of subatomic and atomic particles to the organism itself, and beyond which the study of community, population, and entire world are included. Atomic and subatomic levels. All living organisms and non-living matter is formed of simple units called atoms and subatomic particles such as protons, electrons, and neutrons. Molecular level. In organisms, elements usually do not occur in isolated forms. The atoms of different elements combine with each other through ionic or covalent bonding to produce compounds. This stable form is called a molecule. Hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and calcium are the most common atoms found in biological molecules. The different types of bonding arrangement permits biological molecules to be constructed in a great variety and complexity. These may be micromolecules with a low molecular weight like carbon dioxide, water, oxygen. Or macromolecules with the high molecular weights like starch and proteins. Biological world has two types of molecules, organic and inorganic. An organic molecule is any molecule containing both carbon and hydrogen. Inorganic molecules do not include carbon and hydrogen together in a molecule. An organism is composed of an enormous number of micro and macromolecules of hundreds of different types. Some most important and abundant organic molecules in organisms are glucose, amino acids, fatty acids, glycerol, nucleotides like ATP, ADP, and AMP. Organelles and cell. Different and enormous number of micromolecules and macromolecules arrange themselves in a particular way to form cells and their organelles. In case of simple organisms like bacteria and most protists, the entire organism consists of a single cell. In most fungi, plants, and animals, the organism may consist of up to trillions of cells. Numerous subcellular structures like mitochondria, Golgi complex, endoplasmic reticulum, ribosomes have been studied for their structure and function. It has become clear that the functions of the cells are accomplished by their specialized structures, comparable to organs of body. These structures are called organelles. The arrangement of organelles speaks of the division of labor within the cells. The prokaryotes have only a limited number and types of organelles in their cytoplasm. Eukaryotes are rich in number in kinds of membranous organelles. A cell membrane is however present in all cells, whether prokaryotic or eukaryotic. Tissue level. In multicellular animals and plants, groups of similar cells are organized into loose sheets or bundles, performing similar function. These are called tissues. Each tissue has a particular function in the life of an organism. For example, muscle tissues, glandular tissues, xylem tissues, phloem tissues. They are specialized for contraction, secretion, conducting water, and for translocation of sugars and proteins. Organs and systems. Different tissues have related functions, assembled together in a structure to carry out its functions with a great efficiency. Such structures are called organs, and they are specialized to perform particular functions. For example, stomach, which is an organ, has a function of food digestion. Protein part has a secretory epithelium, which secretes the gastric juice, and a muscular tissue has a secretory epithelium, which secretes the gastric juice, and a muscular tissue for contracting the walls of the stomach and mixing the food with the enzyme thoroughly and moving the food to the posterior end. The formation of organs has also selective value, because this leads to the efficient accomplishments of the functions, both qualitatively and quantitatively. In animals, organ formation is far more complex and defined. Organs are part of organ systems, where total functions involved in one process or phenomena are carried out. The organ level of organization is much less definite in plants than in the animals. At the most, we might distinguish roots, stems, leaves, and reproductive structures. Clear-cut functions, the distinguishing features, can be assigned to each of these structures. Roots are involved in anchoring the plant, storage of food, and procuring water and minerals. The shoot supports the entire plant. While the leaves are primary organs for food manufacture. flowers or other reproductive structures are involved in producing the next generation. The complexity of organ systems of animals is associated with a far greater range of functions and activities than is found in plants. Individual or a whole organism. Various organs in plants and various organ systems in animals are assembled together to form an individual, the whole organism. The whole organism has its individuality as far as the characteristics are concerned. It's different from the other members of the same species in certain respects. The various functions, processes, and activities of organism are coordinated. In an animal, all the systems work in coordination with each other. For instance, if a man is engaged in continuous and hard exercise, not only his muscles are working, but there is an increase in the rate of respiration to supply the muscles with the increased oxygen and food which they need for the continuous exercise. In animals, the coordination is achieved by means of nervous system and endocrine system, whereas in plants only long-term regulation of activities is brought about by hormones. Organism works as a whole and it interacts and responds to the environmental changes as a whole. Population. A population is a group of living organisms of the same species located in the same place at the same time. Examples are the number of rats in the field of rice, the number of students in your biology class, or human population in a city. Population is a higher level of biological organization than organism, because here a group of organisms of the same species is involved. This level of organization has its own attributes, which come into being by living together of a group of organisms of the same species. Some of these attributes are gene frequency, gene flow, age distribution, population density, population pressure, etc. All these are new parameters which have appeared due to the population of an organism. Community. Populations of different species, plants and animals living in the same habitat form a community. Communities are dynamic collections of organisms in which one population may increase and others may decrease due to fluctuations in abiotic factors. Some communities are complex and well integrated. Other communities may be simple. In a simple community, Any change can have drastic and long-lasting effects. The foregoing account makes it clear that an organism can be studied at different levels of organization. It can be studied at subatomic, atomic, molecular, macromolecular, organelle, cell, tissue, organ, and organ system level. We can also look at it as an individual, as a part of population of some individuals, as a part of community, and a part of community of an ecosystem, which includes abiotic factors as well as living organisms. The organism's interaction can take many shapes. It may be predation, parasitism, commensalism, mutualism, and competition. Living world in space. Living world of today is enormous in size. It has been reproducing and evolving since the time of its origin. The distribution of organisms in space can be studied through biomes. A biome is a large regional community primarily determined by climate. It's been found that major type of plant determines the other kinds of plants and animals. These biomes have, therefore, been named after the types of the major plant or major features of the ecosystem. Living world in time. Since the time of origin of life on this planet, various organisms were evolved and dominated this planet during various periods of geological time chart. This has been found by evidence obtained from discovery and study of fossils, which allows biologists to place organisms in time sequence. As geological time passes and new layers of sediments are laid down, the older organisms should be in deeper layers. In addition, it's possible to date or age rocks by comparing the amounts of certain radioactive isotopes. The older sediment layers have less of these specific radioactive isotopes than the younger layers. A comparison of these layers gives an indication of the relative age of fossils. Therefore, the fossils found in the same layer must have been alive during the same geological period. You can have an idea about the temporal distribution of various forms of life, both plants and animals, in the various geological periods. Cenozoic era. Mesozoic era. Paleozoic era. Proterozoic era. Phyletic lineage. When we look at the biodiversity, the number and variety of species in a place, we find that there are nearly 2.5 million species of organisms currently known to science. More than half of these are insects, 53.1%. And another 17.6% are vascular plants. Animals other than insects are 19.9%, and 9.4% are fungi, algae, protozoa, and various prokaryotes. This list is far from being complete. Various careful estimates put the total number of species between 5 and 30 millions. Out of these, only 2.5 million species have been identified so far. The life today has come into existence through phyletic lineages, or evolving populations of the organisms living in the remote past. Evolutionary changes often produces new species and then increases biodiversity. Phyletic lineage is an unbroken series of the species arranged in ancestors to descendant sequence, with each later species having evolved from one that immediately preceded it. If we had a complete record of the history of life on this planet, Every lineage would extend back in the time to the common origin of all early life. We lack the record because many soft-bodied organisms of the past had not left their preserved record as fossils. Biological method. Science is a systemized knowledge. Like other sciences, biological sciences also have a set methodology. It's based on experimental inquiry. It always begins with the chance observation. Observations are made with the five senses. These are vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch, depending upon their functional ability. Observations can both be qualitative and quantitative. Quantitative observations have accuracy over qualitative observations. As in the former, variables are measurable and are recorded in the terms of numbers. An observer organizes observations into data form and gives a statement as per experience and background knowledge of the event. This statement is hypothesis, which is tentative explanation of the observations. At this stage, you should look at the ways of devising hypothesis. There are two ways of formulating hypothesis. A hypothesis can be a result of deductive reasoning, or it can be a consequence of inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning moves from general to the specific. It involves drawing specific conclusions from some general principles or assumptions. Deductive logic of if to then is frequently used to frame testable hypotheses. For example, if we accept that all birds have wings, premise number 1, and that sparrows are the birds, premise number 2, then we conclude that the sparrows have wings. If all green plants require sunlight to photosynthesis, then any green plant when placed in dark would not synthesize glucose, the end product of photosynthesis. The other way of reasoning used in formulation of hypotheses is inductive reasoning, which is reasoning from specific to general. It begins with the specific observations and leads to the formation of general principles. For instance, if we note that sparrows have wings and are birds, and we know that eagle, parrot, hawk, crow are birds, then we induce or draw conclusion that all birds have wings. The science also, therefore, uses inductive methods to generalize from specific events. In fact, sometimes scientists also use other ways to form a hypothesis, which may include intuition or imagination, static preference, religious or philosophical ideas, comparisons, analogy with other processes, discovery of one thing while looking for some other thing. These ways can also sometimes form basis for scientific hypotheses. Hypotheses, as you already know, are subjected to rigorous testing. Repeated exposures of hypotheses to possible falsifications increases scientists' confidence in the hypothesis. When it is not falsified, any hypothesis that is tested again and again without ever being falsified is considered well supported and is generally accepted. This may be used as a basis for formulating further hypotheses. So there is soon a series of hypotheses supported by the results of many tests, which is then called a theory. A good theory is predictive and has explanatory power. One of the most important features of good theory is that it may suggest new and different hypotheses. A theory of this kind is called productive. However, in the case of productive theory, the testing goes on. In fact, many scientists take it as a challenge and exert even greater efforts to disprove the theory. If a theory survives this skeptical approach and continues to be supported by experimental evidence, it becomes a scientific law. A scientific law is a uniform or constant fact of nature. It is virtually an irrefutable theory. Biology is short in laws because of elusive nature of life. Examples of biological laws are Hardy-Weinberg law, Mendel laws of inheritance. You can see that laws are even more general than the theories and afford answers to even more complex questions. Therefore, there are relatively few laws in biology. Biology and the service of mankind. The science of biology has been helping mankind in many ways, in increasing food production, in combating diseases, and in protecting and conserving environment. Biological advances in the fields of food and health have resulted in high standard of living. Plant production has been tremendously increased by improving existing varieties. High yield and disease resistant varieties of plants and animals used as food. Plants and animal breeders have developed, through selective breeding using the principles of genetics, new, better varieties of wheat, rice, corn, chicken, cow, and sheep. Poultry breeders have developed broilers for getting quick and cheap white meat. Genes for disease resistance and other desirable characters are introduced into the plants using the techniques of genetic engineering. Such transgenic plants having foreign DNA incorporated into their cells, can be propagated by cloning, production of genetically identical copies of organisms or cells by asexual reproduction. Using special techniques such as tissue culture techniques, plant pathogenic fungi, and insect or pest of crops, which weaken the plant and reduce the yield, had traditionally been controlled by chemical fungicides and insecticides or pesticides. Use of these chemicals poses toxicity problems as well as environmental pollution. Moreover, there are chances of insects becoming resistant to the effects of these chemicals. Biological control. Control by some living organisms eliminates all such hazards. In biological control, pests are destroyed by using some living organisms that compete with others or even eat them. An aphid that attacks walnut tree is being controlled biologically by wasp that parasitizes the aphid. Even some bacteria are being used as biopesticides. Effective control of particular disastrous diseases or all the common diseases of plants can be achieved by using all relevant appropriate methods of disease control. Such an approach of disease control is called integrated disease management. Soil is a complex medium. It's almost impossible to conduct experiments in nutrient requirements of the plants by growing them in soil. Hydroponic culture technique is used to test whether certain nutrient is essential for plant or not. In this technique, the plants are grown in the aerated water to which nutrient minerals salts have been added. Hydroponic farming, however, is not yet feasible. Astronauts may use it for growing vegetables. Different techniques of the food preservation have been developed for protecting food from spoilage and for its use and transport over long distance without damaging its quality. One of these is pasteurization, developed by Louis Pasteur. It's being widely used for preservation of milk and milk products. Disease control. There has been fantastic progress in the area of health and disease control. Three-pronged actions are usually taken against various diseases. Number 1, preventive measures. Number 2, vaccination or immunization. Number 3, drug treatment or gene therapy. Preventive measures. The advances in biological sciences have provided us information about the causative agents of the diseases and their mode of transmission. For instance, the AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, is caused by HIV. Similarly, hepatitis is caused by hepatitis virus. It is spread through the blood transfusion by using contaminated syringes and surgical instruments. Doctors advise us to be careful and avoid the point of contact. Many diseases such as polio, whooping cough, measles, or mumps can easily be controlled by vaccination or shots. Edward Jenner first developed the technique of vaccination in 1796. Cowpox pus is known as Veka. from Latin vacca, cow. From this word evolved the present term vaccination and vaccine. Since then, inoculation or vaccination is carried out to make the people immune from viral or bacterial epidemics. Or for some diseases, the individuals are vaccinated in their early life to make them immune to those diseases. It's claimed that smallpox have been totally eliminated from the world by using this method. Scientists are making continuous efforts to develop vaccine against other diseases. Even vaccine against AIDS is being administered in humans on experimental basis. Drug treatment or gene therapy. If a person becomes sick with the disease, he is subjected to the action of antibiotics, which can kill bacteria. The antibiotics are, however, useful in bacterial diseases, and that only when bacteria have not developed resistance to antibiotics. In cancer, radiotherapy and chemotherapy are also used. In radiotherapy, the cancerous part is exposed to shortwave radiations from radioactive materials repeatedly at regular intervals. At Pakistan, there are several centers which are carrying out radiotherapy to control cancer. Chemotherapy consists of administering certain anti-cancer chemicals to the patients at regular intervals. These chemicals may kill both cancerous and normal cells. Recently, a new technique has been developed to repair defective genes. This consists of isolating the normal gene and inserting it into the host through bone marrow cells. This is called gene therapy. Combating diseases utilizing all methods as and when required and ensuring a participation of community is known as integrated disease management. This requires the awareness of community about the severity of the problem, its causes, and remedies. This is a very effective program for elimination and control of dangerous diseases from the human society. Protection and conservation of environment. Industrialization has helped mankind to raise the standard of living. It has at the same time destroyed our environment. Tons of industrial waste and effluent in solid, liquid, or gas form are being injected into the environment by the industries. These effluents frequently contain sizable amount of certain very toxic, even carcinogenic materials. Heavy metals like lead from automobiles, chromium from tanneries, are playing havoc to human health. Environmental pollution has raised alarming levels in some countries. This problem therefore needs to be addressed, or else it would soon be out of control. In which case, the biocomponents of the world's ecosystem would suffer irreparable loss, and this environment would no longer support life on this planet. Biology has helped mankind in attracting attention to this problem. And the biologists are striving to find the solution to set the environment right wherever it has deteriorated. Biologists have already asked for the treatment of industrial effluents to be made obligatory. Several ways of bioremediation are also under investigation. For example, algae has been found to reduce pollution of heavy metals by bioabsorption. Biologists are also working out the list of endangered species of plants and animals, which, if not protected, would soon be extinct. They have, therefore, stressed the needs for their protection. The environmental pollution is a national problem in Pakistan. All rivers and canals are highly polluted with the mixing of city sewage and industrial waste. The life in fresh water of Pakistan is toward decline. Fish populations have been most adversely affected. We need to take protective measures as early as possible. In cities, particularly the exhaust from automobiles, is enormously adding lead into atmosphere. There is then the need for lead-free petrol to reduce the pollution.